I don't wanna wake up.
Big addition, not gonna.
If you love wisdom, put your mind up to the ceiling. Don't let it stay in the gutter. Don't let your heart get all cluttered. No, I did not stutter. Listen to all that I've muttered. Your life will only go well if you win wisdom or lovers.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
You and I. You and I.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside. Come inside.
The truth will surely rescue you and I.
All right, what's going on? This is JC Johnson for the Love of Wisdom, and you are listening on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. All right, we're getting ready to get started in a couple minutes. Got a few different topics for you today. We're going to go ahead and get started with the wisdom of controllability. It's all about self-control. All right, so more on that after this. You are listening on North Coast Underground.
If you're in love with wisdom, come inside.
Come inside.
All right, what's going on? And welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets. And of course, you're listening on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. Glad you can join me today. We have a few different topics. It's going to be an interesting show. But as I said, we're going to be starting with the wisdom of controllability. Now, what is controllability? What is that all about? What does that mean? We're going to get into that. Just a quick recap if it's your first time listening to the show. This is a philosophy show, and it is really all about philosophy. What does philosophy mean? Philosophy literally means love of wisdom. That's where the show title comes from, and that's what this thing is all about. It's about having a love for wisdom, about having a love for knowledge and understanding so that we can make good decisions in life. Now, just to get started, let's take a look at this word controllability. And again, if you want to hear past episodes of the show, you can always go to iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Spotify, anywhere where you can listen to podcasts. You'll be able to catch up on past episodes. Last week we did talk about theocentricity, or a couple weeks ago, and right now we're focusing on a new topic. So what is controllability? Here, let's see what the dictionary has to say about it. There's a couple different definitions here. One is to exercise restraint or direction over, to dominate or command. Right? So we're talking about having direction over, dominating, or commanding oneself, in the sense of self-control. Now, of course, you could always control another person or something, but we're specifically focusing on self-control today. So the exercise of restraint, self-restraint, self-domination, self-command, to hold in check, to curb. Another definition is to test or verify by a parallel experiment or other standard of comparison. So that's what controllability is about. It's really about putting yourself in check. It's about making sure that you are able to control yourself. And there's a quote about self-control that really stands out. We're going to go over it again in more depth a little bit later, but I think that this one is pretty good. And this one says basically that if you don't control yourself, someone else will control you. That's an anonymous quote, but that's definitely real. That's something to think about. Control yourself, or someone else will control you. And that's pretty serious if you think about it. Nobody wants to be controlled by someone or something. People who are addicted to drugs, they're being controlled by a substance. People who are in abusive relationships, they're being controlled by their partner. You know, that is not the type of life that anyone wants to live. And it's not the type of subjection we should put any people under either. Now, when it comes to self-control, though, that's a positive type of control. That's the type of control that says, you know what? In order for me to be successful, I have to be able to put myself in check. I have to make sure that I can control what I say. I can control what I do. I can control how I treat other people. I can control the types of environments that I put myself in, right? So if you're used to putting yourself in environments that cause you to, let's say, get in trouble with the law, maybe you say, I don't want to put myself in those kind of environments anymore because I'm not trying to destroy myself. I'm trying to control myself. I'm trying to put myself in a good place. So again, control yourself or someone else will control you. That's real. Now, on the topic of self-control, something really interesting here is an article about weight loss. And it says that self-control is the key to weight loss, according to what some recent brain scans are showing. So this is an article written by Dennis Thompson. And he says here that brain scans reveal that people who are better at losing weight have more activity in regions of the brain associated with self-control. And, you know, if you think about it, I mean, that is true because your brain is the thing that tells your body what to do. Your brain is the thing that is telling your heart to beat. And why is your heart beating? Because it's pumping blood. Where is it pumping that blood through? Through your veins. Everything is connected in your body. And it all starts with your mind, with your brain. Because your brain tells everything else what to do. In this article, it says that Dr. Elaine Darr says that cigarette smoking has been largely beaten in the Western world through a combination of strategies, and some of these target self-control. Now, you can, stop smoking through a number of means, right? You got the Nicorette patches. You have a lot of different things that help, but really, the bottom line is it's something psychological, and it's something that has to do with your self-control. Because if you don't have self-control, it doesn't matter if you chew Nicorette gum or you have a patch or any of that. If you don't have self-control, you're going to keep doing the same things. It's a psychological problem, right? And it's something that has to be put in check in order to be able to stop being addicted. Because that's what it's all about. It's about addiction. Maybe when people get into smoking cigarettes initially, it's not about addiction because you can't be addicted to something that you're not addicted to. So when they first start, it's for other reasons. Maybe it's to be cool. Maybe it's because they see someone else do it. Or maybe someone said, hey, this will help you to relieve your stress. Whatever the case. And people get into it. But it's only after a few times or consistent use of it that they become addicted. And this addiction is psychological. It's the brain that is being influenced that causes people to be addicted to anything. So this is saying basically, if we use the same principles here, this can also apply to weight loss. So it says weight loss causes the body to signal that there's an energy deficit, activating a region of the brain associated with motivation and desire. And so that's really what's going on. It's your brain telling you, hey, something's wrong. I'm not receiving enough energy. I'm hungry. I'm missing nutrients. I'm missing energy. This is not okay. I need you to put something into the body right now. It's sending off alarms. But when you're losing weight, maybe when you're dieting, you're teaching your brain a new norm, right? It's a new normal. And it takes time for the brain to get used to that. Another thing from the article here, it says that it's a struggle and we're doing brain imaging of that struggle. The struggle between the desire to lose weight and the desire to eat tasty food. And that's what it is, really. It's this battle, right? It's this mental battle of, you know what, I like Twinkies, but Twinkies are not causing me to hit my weight loss goals. So what do I give into? The Twinkies or my motivation to lose weight? And that can be a struggle. It says here that region of the brain, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, promotes hunger pangs in response. But there's a counterbalancing force, another section of the brain that promotes self-control, called the lateral prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of the brain that we need to tap into when it comes to self-control, and not just when it comes to weight loss or quitting cigarette smoking, but all things, like when it comes to treating people fairly, or not committing heinous crimes, all of that. But more on that after this. You're listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
This is your girl, Juicy Jazzo, and I wanted to let you know I'm all about wisdom. Knowledge is power, power is money, and money makes the world go round. And you're listening to For the Love of Wisdom right now, bleeding out your speakers.
All right, what's going on? Welcome back. You're listening to For the Love of Wisdom, where philosophy meets the streets, and I'm your host, JC Johnson, right here on North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you. So before the break, we were, looking at this article about weight loss and looking at how basically this is something that starts in the brain. Self-control is the key to weight loss, according to recent studies. And one other thing that is said is that one of the writers here said, I know when I'm stressed, I eat junk food. So I'm going to have another plan. Whenever I'm stressed and I have a craving for junk food, I'm going to have a healthy snack instead. You can actually train people to automatically enact those sorts of plans. And I thought that was pretty good, because that's true. What he's saying is, it's not about just trying to will it away, right? It's not about just saying, I won't eat junk food. I won't eat junk food, right? Because you can say that all you want, but there needs to be an alternative to the junk food, because your body is still craving something. So you have to train your body to crave something else. You have to train your brain to desire something else. So instead of just not eating junk food, it's about eating healthy food instead. Something has to go in its place. So I remember in elementary school, we thought it was funny. One of my classmates said that her father was trying to quit smoking cigarettes, and she said that what he would do instead of smoking cigarettes was to chew on straws. And we all used to laugh and make fun of her, say, oh, that's crazy, your dad's chewing on straws. But what she was saying and what he was doing made a lot of sense. He wasn't just stopping cigarette smoking, because part of the cigarette smoke is not just the smoke that's being inhaled and the nicotine, tobacco, and all that. It's also just the physical feeling of having that cigarette in the mouth, right? So what he was doing was substituting that to give himself a familiar feeling of something being in the mouth. And that was something that was helpful to him. So it might have seemed funny to us and other people, but guess what? It helped him to quit smoking. So it was effective for him. So we can't hate on that, right? Anything that you need to do in order to help you is a positive thing, regardless of what people say. Now, what do some notable people have to say about self-control and just controlling yourself in general? Let's see. Here's a quote that we looked at earlier. We can go a little bit more into it. It says, control yourself or someone else will control you. That's very true. That's very true. I mean, why? You have to think about it like this. We, in life, we're all given however many days on earth. Nobody knows how long we're going to be here. And it's really up to us to decide what our lives are going to look like. It's not up to anybody else. It's really up to us, because no one else is responsible for me but me. Right? Nobody else is responsible for you but you, unless you're a minor. But once you become an adult, you're responsible for yourself. And this is very true, because if you don't control yourself, think about Nazi Germany. People were looking for a leader. And the reason why people followed behind Hitler and that regime was because they weren't willing to control themselves or give themselves their own outlook on the situation and the way that things were around them. They wanted somebody to tell them what to do, whether that was conscious or subconscious. They were crying out to be controlled by somebody, and that's exactly what happened. And we see that all throughout history. We saw the same thing in Russia with Stalin. We've seen that with Saddam Hussein. We see that everywhere, because most people want the easy way. They don't want to have to think. They want somebody to think for them. But that's a dangerous place to be. Another quote: mastering self-control. The act of restraining one's emotions is the true key to success. That's from Timothy Pina, and that's true. That's the only way to be successful. You have to have emotional intelligence. You have to be able to control your emotions. Here's one from Napoleon Hill: if you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self. Now, it might sound like it's saying the same thing, but it's not. You do need to conquer yourself in a positive sense, in the sense of having self-control. Because if you don't, you will be conquered by yourself in the sense that you will destroy yourself. Self-control is not about self-destruction. It's about self-preservation. But the only way to do that is to have control. And here's one from Elie Wiesel. Ultimately, the only power to which man should aspire is that which he exercises over himself. That's another good one. So what does the Bible have to say about this? Proverbs 25, verse 28 says that people who cannot control themselves are like cities without walls to protect them. Think about that one for a second. Like a city without a wall to protect you, right? That's what it's like when you don't have self-control. Now, whether it's eating too much, or if it's going on a mass killing spree, or whatever the thing is that you're doing that causes you to not have self-control, in that moment you feel like it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do. You feel like it's going to be the thing that's going to give you whatever it is that you're craving or that you feel entitled to. But ultimately, what this is saying is that you're basically, when you're doing that, it's almost as though you're exposing yourself to all sorts of trouble, whether you can see it at that time or not. So self-control is really important, because what this is saying is that's actually the thing that protects you. And when it comes to self-preservation, sometimes we go to negative things thinking those things will preserve us or protect us, but those are the very things that can destroy us. So we have to crave and desire good things. If we desire things that are not good, it's only going to lead to our ruin. In 1 Corinthians 9:27, Paul here is saying, "It is my own body. I fight to make it do what I want. I do this so that I won't miss getting the prize myself after telling others about it." Some translations say, "I beat my body and make it my slave." Right? So what is he saying here? He's saying that in order to do right, in order to do what ultimately is going to lead to his success in life, whether that's emotional success, spiritual success, financial, whatever, he has to have self-control. He has to tell his body what to do instead of his body telling him what to do. Proverbs 16:32 says that it is better to be patient than to be a strong soldier. It is better to control your anger than to capture a city. That's another good one. Here's a couple more. 1 Corinthians 9:25. All who compete in the games, and it's referring to the Olympics here. All who compete in the games use strict training. They do this so that they can win a prize, one that doesn't last. But our prize is one that will last forever. And that's what this is saying. Don't worry about things that only last for a little while. Do things that have eternal value. And we're going to talk about that actually next week with Will the Thrill. He's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about eternity. One more from Philippians 4:13. It says, Christ is the one who gives me the strength I need to do whatever I must do. So whatever kind of self-control is needed, whatever it is that you need in order to be successful, Christ is the one who can give you the power to do that so that you can be successful. But more on that after this. You're listening to North Coast Underground, where the underground starts with you.
Knowledge is power, power is money, and money makes the world go round. Money, power, respect, I get it, higher, learning, yeah, I'm with it. Only get better with time, keep got on my mind with wisdom, there's no limit. There's no limit, get up and get it. Can achieve the impossible, conquer every obstacle. Exhausted from grinding, constantly push and do what they say I could. Life is what you make it. Knowledge is power, don't let them take it.
If you're in love with wisdom,